In tonight's in-depth coverage, it was Judgment Day for a controversial charter school being set up by the Catholic Church. The state Supreme Court heard arguments for and against the establishment of St. Isidore Seville Online Catholic Charter School. If it opens, the Catholic school will be fully funded by your tax dollars. I listened in on today's arguments. The state's highest court heard arguments Tuesday for a school that wants to teach about reading, writing, arithmetic, and religion.
I appear today as the state's chief law officer to defend the separation of church and state, which a state-created and state-funded public religious school would all but eradicate.
Oklahoma Attorney General Gentner Drummond personally argued against St. Isidore Seville Virtual Catholic Charter School before the state's 9 justices. Drummond said when the Virtual Charter School Board entered into a contract with the Catholic Church to create St. Isidore last year, it violated the state constitution that says taxpayer funds cannot be used for sectarian purposes, and in violation of the First Amendment, the state respected an establishment of religion.
I think that they betrayed their oath of office.
Okay.
And they knew that they betrayed their oath of office because I told them if they did that, they would.
But supporters of the school say this is how Catholic families can exercise their religious freedoms, while public schools are teaching things contrary to what they value.
St. Isidore has agreed, as a matter of contract, to admit all students, whether they're Catholic or not.
Attorneys for the school say the state constitution violates the U.S. Constitution and the U.S. Supreme Court's recent rulings on religious institutions getting access to public funds.
With all due respect to this court, the first provision of the Oklahoma Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, makes the U.S. Constitution the supreme law of the land.
Some justices said the Catholic Church was doing fine using the private school method to educate Catholic kids and pointed to schools like Bishop Kelly in Tulsa and the state's voucher program to help them pick up the costs. Drummond himself said that way of educating Catholic children is legal and fine.
It would be Catholic instruction, so I assume that it is consistent with a Bishop McGinnis or a Bishop Kelly curriculum, where there'd be certainly excellent education, but there'd also be an indoctrination.
But St. Isidore's attorneys say they want to cover the entire cost of a Catholic education and not have families worry about making up the difference for what a voucher doesn't cover. One of the voices not heard in today's hearing was State Superintendent Ryan Walters. Walters petitioned the court multiple times, saying he and his legal counsel needed to make arguments in support of St. Isidore because ultimately the duties of carrying out the contract between the state and the Catholic Church falls on the State Department of Education. Walters wanted to use State Department of Education legal counsel against the Attorney General.
The reality is clear. Our students need more options. We have to be a leader in school choice, and we have to protect religious freedoms here in the state of Oklahoma.
The state Supreme Court never offered reasons as to why Walters could not join in on the case. Just like others who wanted in on the case but were not direct parties to it, Walters and others were allowed to file briefs for the justices to read and consider. One of the main reasons why we are here is because of a legal opinion released by former Oklahoma Attorney General John O'Connor. In one of his last acts, O'Connor said the Oklahoma Charter Schools Act was unconstitutional, and he believed the U.S. Supreme Court, if asked, would uphold the right of a religious institution to set up their own charter school. The opinion was not legally binding, but it gave the Catholic Church enough confidence to move forward on St. Isidore. The opinion was rescinded by current Attorney General Gentner Drummond within the first months of him taking office. Despite Drummond rescinding O'Connor's opinion, a majority of the Oklahoma State Virtual Charter School Board voted to approve St. Isidore, citing O'Connor's opinion. By a vote of 3-2, a majority of the board said they were worried that by saying no to the proposal, they were infringing on the religious liberty of Catholics wanting an alternative school for their children.
Oklahoma state law at issue in today's discretionary decision, namely Section 3-136A2 of Title 70 of the Oklahoma statutes, does violate the free exercise clause of the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
The chairman of the Virtual Charter School Board, who you see here, Dr. Robert Franklin, voted no and then tendered his resignation, saying the vote was rigged and he didn't want to be an accomplice to violating what he said was the basic American principle of separation of church and state. The board was then sued by Drummond. While the case is still pending, the Catholic Church is confident enough to start enrollment for St. Isidore for its first school year set to start next fall. The school reports 200 families have already enrolled in the program. The school specifically hopes to cater to families looking for virtual Catholic options who can't attend a traditional brick-and-mortar Catholic school.
That's the difficulty with this lawsuit, is it's really kind of throwing a wrench in the system for the launch of the school and providing the educational services that we intend to provide for these kids that really need it.
If you are interested in enrolling your own student in St. Isidore, but you aren't sure about the school's future, you are asked not to double enroll your child. Double enrolling is illegal under state law because of how taxpayer funds are allocated. A decision will likely come down this summer. The school and the state need to know by July 1st because that's when the state distributes funding for schools. If the school is rejected, the case could continue in federal court in hopes of making it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court.